the only way to expose the truth is to be indecent. Two men might just be indecent enough to do it. Enter a wannabe amateur disc golfer who reads Reddit threads and a fake cowboy who lifts weights. This is Indecent Exposure. It's time to plunge down the rabbit hole with your hosts, Ryan and Sam.
Hello.
Hello.
What's good, man?
What's up, buddy? We're kind of both wearing green today.
Your shirt is blue.
It's not blue, man.
It's blue on my camera.
That's how bad your camera is.
That's what your camera is showing.
No.
Yes, it's so blue.
It's kind of like a mint, I guess.
There's licks of green in there, but it's mainly blue.
See, there it is.
Licks.
There it is.
Just barely, man. But yeah, it's nice. So you're rocking the Rogers hat again?
Always, dude. I love this hat.
Yeah, I went to a dispensary today and they had Richardson's and I really wanted to buy one.
Why didn't you?
It was the same style as this the Kansas City barbecue place.
Yeah, the Kansas City barbecue store.
Yeah. And the style fits good, but it's a little too big still.
Sorry.
And it was all black too. So this one's fading a little bit. Here, let me show you the front. There's the black and there's the.
It's supposed to be brown.
It's pretty much brown. And probably my fault because I've washed this several times, but it's like when I go play disc golf, I think it just gets like
sweaty,
eaten by the sun, dude.
Yeah, that's probably a good point.
So it's all good. It's all good. So I'm trying to avoid black hats.
That's unfortunate.
Not that there's anything wrong with that color at all.
I mean, it's one of the colors of your alma mater.
It is. It's great. I mean, it matches with everything, man. You can play any, or you match it with anything.
Yeah.
So, life good?
This is good, man. This is a good start.
Gosh. Oh man, sorry. It's been a long week already. I don't know.
It's Wednesday.
Brother, last week felt like the 5 days. It felt like 14. And then I have like a corporate deliverable that I have to do for work at the start of the month. And it's just exhausting. I worked from 8 to almost 8. I almost worked 12 yesterday. And I know you work 24s, you know. It's different when you're staring at a computer screen and numbers all day. It's just mentally exhausting. I'm not saying that your job is not.
I didn't think you were.
And so it's just been a long week. It's not a great way to start off my Monday and Tuesday. And yeah, I'm actually excited. It's almost Thursday.
Yeah, tomorrow, man. Thursday. Almost there.
I feel just drained. So sorry. I'll bring out the attitude or the energy for this.
I'll need your attitude.
Yeah, you get that enough, buddy.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So, what do you want to talk about?
Well, let's recap here a little bit. What did we talk about last week? Let's
look at the past 5 podcasts because it's so funny that the more and more I like just live my day-to-day lives, the more and more all the podcasts that we have been talking about is just kind of coincides with each other.
They're starting to blend a little bit.
They are, and they're all having like this weird, and I was talking to Debbie about this. They all are kind of related in a way, but like you wouldn't think it. But like if you start to listen to each episode, they all kind of a weird relationship that they all kind of have. Like they're not like all tied together and whatnot, but they're close. So starting from we're on our now episode 18, from 17 to 12, Twitter files, Off the Rails, which was about the train derailments, which we've been getting some more information about that. 3 people died this week from
East Palestine.
from East Palestine that were just not observers, but they were some of the people that are testing the chemicals.
Researchers?
Yeah.
That's concerning.
Yeah. And then there's been so many train derailments, and maybe I'm just getting it because I'm biased or whatnot, but I don't know. Bias being like,
here's
it's going to know my search history, right? And then we had Back to the Lab again. Just
these fucking episode names are.
Yeah, I wonder who's making those up. So talking about COVID-19 and the origins from that, which is actually funny because I think what we're going to talk about today, World Economic Forum, there's actually some huge ties into what I've done some recent research about the Great Reset and COVID. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
only the founder of the World Economic Forum only wrote a book called the COVID-19, The Great Reset.
Was it produced before COVID-19 came out?
I don't know when it exactly came out. I'll have to look that up.
But I did see that. Yeah, that's interesting.
So,
and then
preface there for you.
And then, and then we talked about what happened on the January 6th coup, if we're going to call it a coup.
It's hard. It's challenging to kind of pinpoint that one because we kind of looked at, both sides of it. We looked at the mainstream narrative, and then we kind of looked at, the other side of it.
Yeah.
And provides a different perspective. And I think it muddies the water a little bit and kind of gives it more of a gray area feel.
Yeah. And I feel like that video was very much suppressed because I'm looking at the views and guys, we don't have a lot of views, and that's fine. It's just going to take time to build our channel and build our brand and whatnot. But okay, don't laugh at us, but we average between 20 to 100 views. That video got
that range is really funny.
Yeah, I know. But that video only got 10 views, and suppressed. I thought that was one of our best as far as came prepared, displayed both sides of the whole arrangement, and that one only got 10. And then we got the ban of TikTok, which got as of now 52 views, which is far supreme of what we just produced. Which you would think there can be a gradual increase of views, which would make sense over time, and then for that one just plummet. Shocking.
Interesting. Peculiar.
Well, I'll have to put that on the old TikTok before it gets banned by the Restriction Act. Let's pray to God it doesn't. And then the ban of TikTok, either it's probably because it was recent,
I did see in UK that TikTok got fined for
it's a lot of money
doing something with kids data or something like that, selling it or something like that. I don't know. I just, it was a headline, so who knows what the information actually said, but I just saw a headline.
No idea.
Yeah.
But kind of interesting. Interesting. Definitely. But it all kind of ties into each other. And now we're going to talk about this subject, which I don't have a ton of background knowledge about, but other than what I've seen about TikToks, and just my own general research and whatnot. So do you want to start off with?
Well, yeah. So the World Economic Forum, it's probably something that people have kind of heard about more recently. It's been around since the 80s, I believe.
70s, I think.
70, yeah.
You probably heard of the Geneva Convention. It's the same thing.
Yeah. And it was started by this guy named Klaus Schwab. And they hold a forum. They hold an annual forum, and it's kind of turned into this billionaire, billionaire conference.
Yeah, it's got a lot
private jets flying into Switzerland and Davos, Switzerland.
Hundreds of CEOs and billionaires and just people that are very high up in there.
Have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we'll have to look up when he wrote this or released this book, but he wrote a book called, as we mentioned, COVID-19, The Great Reset. And during one of his speeches, he made some really kind of interesting comments saying like, you will own nothing and you will be happy. You will eat the bugs.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And people are kind of like, what is going on? Are we moving? And it's kind of like, it's creating this idea of like, when you hear like the New World Order, it's starting to kind of converge onto this one group of the World Economic Forum, because this guy has been around since whatever, the 80s, since the, I mean, who knows how long the New World Order has been talked about, but it seems in the last couple of years, it's like it's gained a lot of steam.
I think it's been talked about for a long time. If you're going to bring in like religion, and shout out to my sister for actually listening to my podcast.
Yeah.
And as that actually kind of brought up some religious standpoints that I don't want to get too much into because I don't want to, but it's kind of all tied in to this whole Great Reset.
I mean, I guess you could go back to like the Crusades.
Right.
I mean, people like, unfortunately, like to use religion to push their agenda, as like mask it in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, the World Economic Forum is kind of, it's gained a lot of, I think, popularity, and I think more people are paying attention to it just because of this whole Great Reset idea. And it sounds like what they're trying to do is move everyone to a centralized currency.
Right.
They have, what is it? The ESG. It's like economical, social, something else, governance or something like that.
Sure.
And that kind of is concerning because it's kind of pointing to, like, we talked about social credit scores, moving to like moving like what China's
that's like
kind of implementing.
Kind of a black.
Ways.
I'm pretty sure that's a Black Mirror episode where
it is a Black Mirror episode.
Rate every transaction, rate every person. If they're like below a 4, like you won't even deal with that person. Yeah,
where that girl's trying to get as much, trying to get all the social media likes to boost her social credit score, and then ends up tanking it, and finds out that she's happier now that she let it tank.
Yeah,
but it kind of seems like that's kind of what they're moving towards, and they're using it under the guise of, this is going to benefit everyone, like this big socialist. I mean, if you really look at it, it's a kind of a socialist ideology with a social credit score, a universal currency. And I mean, even to piggyback off that, like we were talking about this earlier today about the whole BRICS thing, Brazil, Russia, Iran, China, and Saudi Arabia now no longer recognizing the US dollar in terms of trade, which is
and there's a lot of countries that are like opting into it. It's just kind of like taking wind and just kind of
that's concerning, very concerning, because now
it's concerning. It's concerning if you're a US citizen, that's for sure. And like, what's the value of our dollar? Because I've heard reports that we're trying to get off of it to go to like crypto to kind of combat that to a certain degree. That's why I think Biden right now is pushing to get regulations for cryptocurrency, which is funny because we talked about it early with Sam Brakeman-Fried about him getting like in trouble for, there's no regulations on what he could do when people invest in his platform. We come to find out a week ago that the $2 billion that he lost, he was just using that for his own gain, which is crazy. How do you lose $2 billion?
Right, because it has no backing.
Right.
As we talked about how we're not, our dollars now is not backed by gold.
Right. And so it's like, what does our dollar stand for? If we're going to trade all of these USDs for basically oil, because let's be honest, and whatever exports we have, and oil is probably our main one. Either we're buying it or we're selling it. What's behind the US dollar that everyone in the world is using? And if they decide to go towards a different monetary system, what's the US dollar worth to every other country? It's going to be obsolete, right?
Well, because they're just going to trade with each other.
Right.
Because they know we depend on them for oil.
They still are going to have to trade with us because we have a lot of exports still.
We do.
And so it's like, well, what are they going to trade us? Are they going to trade us BRICS? Like BRICS. By the way,
the acronym for the five
countries. Regional countries. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like even the thing with Saudi Arabia, like they're capping how much oil they're trading a day now. And it's a very, very small number. It was like 100,000 barrels of oil a day or something like that.
Yeah. Which is crazy because we used to be trading upwards of 200, 300, 400, 500,000 barrels a day.
Yeah. And now it's, they're projecting our gas prices to, on average, raise by like 32 cents this summer with no real end in sight.
You said Saudi Arabia. It's South Africa. Makes up the S.
South Africa.
Yeah. Of that.
But
Brazil,
Saudis
Russia,
are
India. You said Iran, I think. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Maybe Iran and Saudi Arabia are other countries that are going to be.
Could be. I think. I'm just trying to look it up. There's still develop. I mean, it's been around since 2009 is when they first introduced. That's crazy. So it's not like it's been. This was like a yesterday thing. This has been going on for a minute. So here's all the countries involved: Russia, Brazil, China, India, South Africa, Brazil, and I said Russia already, right?
Isn't China?
And China, yeah.
I'm gonna take this. I'm taking this lid off, so you don't have to hear me squeeze it.
No, you're good. So there's some new applicants. Algeria, Argentina, and Iran all applied in 2022. The 5 nations interested on top of that is Afghanistan, Egypt, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Syria. And there's some development programs to try to get people in. They also want Kazakhstan, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Senegal, Thailand, and the United Arab Emirates.
Yep.
So they're trying.
What is the goal of BRICS? Is it like a trade treaty organization, kind of like?
So I'm reading this all from Wikipedia. So it's
kind of like NATO, like similar to
NATO does. I think so. Yeah, it's a multilateral development bank operated by the 5 BRICS states. So that would be South Africa, Brazil, Russia, and India, and China. The bank's primary focus of lending will be infrastructure projects, which authorize lending of $34 billion annually. South Africa will be the African headquarters. So basically all these 5 nations are going to be headquarters, apparently. And they all have like a select number of like monies that they would have as basically like a savings account. So they could lend it out to investors, people that want to, take money.
Their own centralized bank.
Yes, between the 5. So it would be like, I can't say it's like the United States starting the US dollar because it's been around for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Just took time for the US dollar to gain value, and mainly our history of the US dollar was worthless for like hundreds of years. No one wanted to trade a US dollar. And so what we did was we started with a gold backing system. And I think when FDR changed that to gold backing system in the 30s, 40s, obviously, and then we couldn't hold on to like, and what I heard, it was like 2 or 3 pieces of like silver or gold, or else like the government would seize it. So it wasn't like common for people. It wasn't uncommon for U.S. citizens to hide their gold from the government because that was like their standard. They wanted all the gold that they can get, right? Which makes sense because your dollar has a tie to a metal of whatever.
A precious metal.
Yeah. And then we went to the cork and barrel system for some time, which I have no idea what that is. I need to do research on that.
Yeah, hilarious if that was like alcohol.
I have no idea, actually.
I have no idea either.
Cork and barrel.
Clearly, we're not experts in economics and the history of economics, but
No.
I know it's a big deal when we have these countries that we use for a lot of imports that are now no longer recognized in the US dollar.
Oh, sorry. Pork barrel spin. Wait, no, I don't know. I thought it was cork and barrel for some time. And then let's see.
That sounds like a pub, dude. What? It sounds like the beginning of a South Park episode.
I'm just going to ask Google. Is today the currency of most nations? The dollar is fiat money, so unbacked by any physical asset. Unbacked. So a holder of a Federal Reserve note has no right to demand an asset such as gold or silver from the government in exchange for the note. So yeah, we're not backed by anything other than it's a US dollar and everyone wants a US dollar because it's worth something. However, now that's going to be extremely devalued if that's the case. Because everyone wants a US dollar. And okay, so I pulled up an article. It's like, what's the US dollar backed by? And someone shows a picture of like an F-18 tanks, destroyers, and airplanes, right? So like fighter jets and whatnot. So people are idiots, apparently, on this post. That was on Tumblr. Didn't know Tumblr was still a thing. Anyways, so before we get into we already in BRICS, whatnot. I want to show a video of what World Economic Forum's mission statement is, or their story, and then we can kind of go into what conspiracy theories have been risen because of what you've already mentioned about so far. Mm-hmm. So, let me share my screen real quick. Share system audio. Unable to share. That's totally fine.
What?
No, it's just typical stuff, Ryan. All right, let me know if you can hear this.
Nope.
Every time, man.
It's because you gotta. Why won't it allow you to share audio? What are you using, Chrome or?
We should be good now.
Really interesting big questions that I think we have to face in the world. Helping answer some of those big questions, providing a platform for others to answer those big questions. This is now an open space for a lot of our constituents to truly drive forward their own actions.
I'm passionate about serving a group of alternative thinkers who have not only dreamt up great ideas about how the world can be more fair, more inclusive, more just, more sustainable, but are actually proving it's possible.
Damen und Herren, herzlich willkommen hier in Davos.
If you go back 50 years to the time when the forum was conceived, the whole idea was to make the multi-stakeholder concept come alive.
The world has become so interdependent that entrepreneurs everywhere in the world depend each on another.
If you look at the history of the forum, it's really been defining systems thinking.
For example, the Gavi Vaccine Alliance. It took bringing all these great minds with resources together to say, what can we do about this?
Today we're announcing that we'll spend over $10 billion over this next decade on vaccines.
Trust really gives us our credibility. It's really the essential piece to ensuring that we can continue to do the work that we do.
The forum managed to convince Mandela and de Klerk to try to reintegrate South Africa post-apartheid.
It has been my great privilege to fight a struggle for freedom that the world adopted.
An ability of the forum to have good convening power, to bring all relevant actors to the table, and to be able to do it in a way that can impact entire countries or entire domestic systems.
Lassen Sie uns in diesem Geiste gemeinsam für eine gerechte und dauerhafte Friedensordnung für ganz Europa arbeiten.
Our job is to get people around the table to construct and create conversations that aren't being had.
Why wouldn't we have a conversation about how we can reorient trade rules? Because that would have quite a powerful impact on the level of emissions and use of planetary resources.
We must learn to look at the planet not as just a spacecraft on which we are passengers. We must see the planet as what it really is, a living being.
What climate change has done, it's monumental around the world. People moving from where their families have lived for centuries because they can no longer afford to feed themselves.
Putting people in faraway places and pretending that they don't exist, that is not ethical, it's not sustainable, and it's not conducive for human growth.
There's a much more concentrated effort to make sure that we're bringing in the voices of the next generation of business leaders, societal leaders, government leaders. We need to not underestimate the power that this youth has.
Private sector and businesses, industry overall has a huge role to play.
It's not just the business itself, it's also related to the society, how we can create a better world in the future.
We are working together with companies to think about AI and ethics, but also to recognize what human-centered design really means.
We have the Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution to discuss technology governance. We always put humanity and human in center.
And that's where the forum is at its best. It's as a way to shine a spotlight of where the world community could be headed.
We have the incredible potential of the information technologies, of the ways of communicating. We're only at the beginning of recognizing how far that is going to change our lives.
Each one of the Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies has that potential to create a society that's more positive, that's more sustainable, that's more inclusive.
If we can accelerate the formulation of a solution for a rare disease or climate or access to healthcare by a single day, it means a lot to a big chunk of the world population.
लाइट आ गया, कैसा लग रहा है? बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है और अपने काम करने को बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है.
This is about shaping the trajectory of our planet, being that credible, neutral platform that is trusted to bring these stakeholders together and provide them guidance that they're willing to implement.
Valuing equally that lots of different people might have a contribution to give. Because it often is some of those sort of rare ideas that are coming from an unexpected place that happen to be the game changers.
Beautiful. Absolutely magical.
It's so full of hope.
It is. And I'm not saying like, I mean, obviously after you watch that, it's not like, man, how can I doubt people that have billions of dollars are going to run my life into a ruin or whatnot? We're already there.
Yeah. So when you watch that, like all I'm hearing is all of the richest people around the world,
right,
are going to use their money and their influence, and they're going to come up with new technologies, new communications, healthcare, all that stuff, and it's all going to be one centralized idea that's going to be that they're going to try and push out to a global community, not just like, you know.
From a big overview, doesn't sound like a bad thing. Like, what if we all, and it sounds so socialized, what if we all just put in our time? We make our money, and every job, you know, makes a different amount of income, like how capitalism works. We all contribute to provide everything better for everyone. It's far-fetched. It's so extreme.
I think that's the idea of capitalism.
Capitalism, and when you leave the government out, that's
pretty big variable.
You need some sort of governance.
That's a pretty big variable, but yeah, you're right. You do.
In my opinion, because if you keep running capitalism how it is, and you include government to say, hey, banks can get buyouts, or to any industry, whether that be airlines, banks, whatever it is, and they file for bankruptcy and you keep buying them out and giving them money. It's like, well, you're not allowing new competitors to get into the market to say, I have a better solution for this. You're just keeping the whole same piece of shits in power until they know how to run their money. And it's crazy to me that you have these giant corporations, and I'm talking giant.
Yeah, and you're kind of referencing Silicon Valley Bank, and
yeah, that's true. That was
the problem with that is the investments that they made such bad investments. And when you see who has their money, money invested, it's a lot of powerful people and politicians,
which they haven't been bought out, right? They haven't been. No one's given them money to.
I don't know. We'd have to look that up. I thought I thought maybe somebody had.
Yeah, as far as I know, nothing said that Silicon Valley was the bank was funded by or given money by the government.
I'll have to look that up. But I want to backtrack for a second when you're talking about the US dollar, because I found an article by Forbes, and it's talking about like what is a currency collapse, and what they say is like the idea of like the paper money was an IOU from the government, and it used paper money, coins, and even numbers, and I'm quoting the article here, on a bank statement represented an amount of gold in reserve. In those days, money represented an IOU for that amount of gold. Now the system isn't fully backed by gold, but the concept remains the same. Now they're backed by the weight of the United States, reflecting everything within the economy. So the dollar is only given value if we have based on the strength of our economy. And they say, so in order for a dollar to have value, society needs to believe that the United States has value, given how many taxpayers, businesses, and valuable assets are in the U.S. It's hard to argue that doesn't have value. In fact, the reason why the U.S. was able to move off the gold standard was because it had so much economic value.
It did. And it makes total sense. But now we've gotten to the point where we have
hyperinflation, which is really hurting us.
8%. We're $30 trillion in debt and counting, as we have. So what value does the U.S. dollar have other than keeping Americans somewhat sane of what compensation that they have or having assets? And the only thing that's worth value in the United States right now, in my opinion, is if you own real estate. And that's what everyone's always said. If you're good with your money. This is basically the U.S. dollar right now.
Where's all the money? That's as good as money, sir. Those are IOUs. Go ahead and add it up. Every cent's accounted for.
That's it. So we got IOUs right now. I feel like I know shit's gonna happen really soon, and I know that the Treasury right now is looking to apparently they have a new program out for like crypto people to transfer the dollar to a crypto per se, and it's happening like I think this month that they're going to allow a set number of like users to try it out and see how it does as like your world economy, but for the US dollar as a crypto, which again, what are we backing the dollar on now that like we're already trading? We have the stock market already, and I feel like that's about to fail if the US dollar devalues. Like if I invest $100 million into a company, but the US dollar is worth nothing, then what's the deal? So anyways, that's another sort of problem. We got to get back to number one discussion is World Economic Forum.
I know.
It's so easy. Together, but it does. Because everything that we've been talking about is kind of just tying in. I want to show you a quick TikTok about
with it.
Yeah. About the most recent World Economic Forum. This was, I think in January or November.
November sounds right.
I think November, October, sometime around that.
8 chilling predictions for 2030 according to the World Economic Forum. WEF is a scary organization comprised of super rich people who have a plan of action to accumulate global power and wealth. 1. All products have become services. You will not own anything. You won't own a car, a house, any appliances or clothes. Oligarchs will still own everything and will offer housing as a service. 2. There's a global...
I don't know about that first one. That seems a little extreme. Like I can't have a dryer. let's pump the brakes right there. Just
I can't have an apple peeler.
No, you own nothing. You are an apple peeler now.
I am the
global price on carbon. Environmental damage, whether it's driving your car or flying to a different country, will attract taxation. These costs will come from retail users, of course. 3. US.
I kind of want to talk about all these points real quick.
Sure.
That makes most sense. Your point earlier about, or did you say this, or maybe I saw in a video? It's like Bill Gates going to the Geneva Convention in his private jet is going to be way more of a CO2, footprint than I will do in a single year. Driving my gas vehicle, which I barely drive anymore. I'm barely driving, and because I work from home. Maybe hitting 10,000 miles. Like I have to take road trips to like beef that up a little bit. So for me to like, and like, hey guys, if you're driving an electric car, good for you. You're helping out. But guess how much that battery that these third world countries are like getting the materials for is, I don't know if it's like
cobalt mines. Pretty bad.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's worse in obtaining oil or what the statute is. Like, obviously you have to get oil. So you have to go and find it and use carbon emissions to go get it and extract it and refine it. So there's a whole process just to make oil, and then refine oil into gasoline, refine gasoline or oil into what makes up pavement and roads. Like there's a whole lot behind oil. I get it. Understand it. There's an abundance of it though. There's a ton of it. We'll never run out of it in our lifetimes, in our children's lifetimes, in their children's lifetimes, in their children's lifetime. Like we'll have enough oil for 1,000 years. Not saying it's the best thing, but we're refining it. We're making it better and better and better. I'm not saying that CO2 is not harming our environment, right? Because there's been hundreds of studies that links it towards raising our temperature and whatnot. I'm not putting all my wheels in the basket that electric is the way to go, because I don't think it is. I think it's good. And I think it's a start to getting to all electric, but the way we obtain the materials to be able to conduct energy and to store energy is really shitty. It's almost as shitty as hunting diamonds or gold in some of these like third world countries. And I mean, we're going to go war because of it. I mean, China's already trying to go to Taiwan because Taiwan has a huge, I think what you said, either lithium or cobalt depository in some of their soil and lands, whatnot. Isn't
Taiwan the big?
It's huge into
what is it? Microchips? Not microchips, or
it's the materials that make microchips and store lithium. I believe. Don't quote me on it, but I know there's a big thing on that, and China wants it because obviously it's one of the closest like little islands to China, and Taiwan's a free country. So that's second point. Anyways, third point, let's see it.
US dominance is over. The world is going to be run by a handful of global powers. US may still be a part of the dominance, but their debt position isn't looking too good at the moment, and the BRICS nations are coming up fast.
So kind of like we were explaining earlier. Mm-hmm. Yeah, America doesn't look good as far as like, yeah, we're always going to be a global powerhouse. I'm not concerned about that. We'll make it work. It's just concerning as a U.S. citizen, because we're already seeing it, that 64% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, which is absurd to me. In the richest country in the world, right? Or like quote unquote highest GDP, that so many Americans are struggling is extremely concerning. It's going to be interesting how BRICS takes off.
Was there like a point, do you know, when that changed? Like, for instance, you said 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah.
Like, has that drastically risen? When did that metric change? Do you know?
I don't know specifically, but I'll just.
And like, was it within like the last?
I think it's within the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I think.
And do you think COVID had a very 100% negative impact on that? Because
here's my analysis of it. We had 2008 with the housing market crisis, right? Where we had a lot of people that were just buying a $400,000 house when they're only earning 50, 60,000. Like, they couldn't afford this house, right? But banks are just lending it out like it was nobody's business, right? So then we had a bunch of Americans own houses, which is great because that's what you want to see. You want to see people invest into housing, which is going to create capital for themselves. Banks are happy because they're going to get payments. Well, what happened was no one could afford these payments, right? After the housing market crashed, people lost their jobs. They couldn't afford these house payments. And so the banks were just left with thousands of houses, and they couldn't sell them, but they foreclosed them. They're selling it for $1 of what they bought their title for, basically. So that's put a ton of Americans in either high debt, or they had to sell and then move into either rentals or, basically renting.
And we were also in a recession.
And which lasted for about 4 years, right? And you remember with like Cash or Clunkers, Obama, like, we're trying to help out the economy as best we can. This was like around the time 2008, 2009, where like gas was like $4 or $5 a gallon. I remember it being like $7 in California, which not surprising.
Yeah.
And then we started doing good. Like, we started to recover from that. 16, 17, 18, 19, everyone's doing good. Like, interest rates are really low, 4, 3, somewhere around there. And then it just got to the point where like a lot of Americans finally like had the cash to go and buy housing. They want to get out of these rentals that they were in for the past 6, 7 years. So we had the capital, and houses became so scarce that it just drove up the price for houses.
Right.
And it's kind of still in that same point. We're still getting to the fallout. And then COVID happened, where it's like, well, we can't do anything. People want to get out of apartments, but then you're limited on what you can do. So then this basically like our economic growth that we're seeing for the past 10 years just came like suddenly
crashing.
Stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Businesses couldn't make their money. Banks couldn't pay their rent because everyone's just borrowing and lending to each other, right?
And then we had all the PPP loans,
and then let's give money to the Americans, which is good. Like, I'm already paying.
Yeah, but it's a double-edged sword, right?
Right. So it's like, well, you're going to get basically what we got $2,400 at the end of the pandemic out of 2.5 years of stifled, being able to not travel. I mean, the whole industry was just completely disrupted. We weren't seeing, our imports come in, exports going out. It was just, everything was just stifled. Everything just stopped. And that's kind of like where we're at. And we're just kind of waiting for everything to catch up. During that time period, people were like, well, I don't know what to do with my money. Banks don't know what to do with their money. We're just kind of making sure we can get out of this pandemic, which was, in my opinion, a fucking hoax.
It was, and we were kind of in a stalemate. But I mean, retrospectively looking at it, we handled the pandemic horribly, and we crashed our economy.
Absolutely.
Could have been avoided, but we had, again, this is all tying together.
Right. So I don't know what's going to happen, but that's my history and my knowledge about where we've gone. And again, I'm not like an expert in any of this. That's just what I know. So I don't know. It's scary because during the time of the pandemic, BlackRock and Vanguard bought a bunch of housing Not rental properties or not building rental properties. They're just buying up all of these houses, which if you're like an investor back in 2008, 2009, that's what you want to do. You want to buy a bunch of houses so that people are renting from you.
Mm-hmm.
These banks were like, fuck it. Let's just buy up houses as much as we can. And so they started doing that. And then they're charging people that for a house, like my house, they're going to charge you like $3,000, $2,500, $3,000 a month to live here. And this house is not worth that. I'm paying $1,300 a month in my mortgage, give or take. But they're going to charge you almost, 1.5 to 2 times as much. And like people are just, we're going back to feudalism where you have landlords and we're the plebs. And I'm lucky and you're lucky that we both own a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of people our age, Ryan, that can't afford a house. It's even with the like first time home buyers, which is only which is a program offered to first time home buyers.
It's in the name.
Which is not offered in every single state.
Yeah.
People can't get out of that. And you have to pay 3.5% down on a house that's going to cost now. If you're thinking 2 years ago when that house was only worth 200,000, now it's worth 400, 500,000, which is, it's not worth that. You go from a payment of, 3.5% to $5,000. Now those people are having to pay $10,000. You don't have that when you're renting, bro. No one has, and especially rent prices have gone up so high that people don't have, let me just store an extra $100 a month for my future house or my future down payment. We just don't have it. And that's just kind of where it's at. And we're at this weird mark where now interest rates are 8% on houses. Houses are still the same value as they were 2 years ago. Like the house market has not gone down. It's gone down a little bit, but my house went up $100,000 in the past 4 years. You know how long it took my parents' house back when they first bought it in like 1999? They didn't even gain $100,000 on their house. And the fact that I got it in the past 4 years is mind blowing. You don't get those types of returns in the stock market, even if you're that aggressive.
Yeah, and it's hard for homeowners now to want to sell because why? If you're locked into an interest rate that's like less than 3%. What's the incentive to sell your house just to pay 6 to 8% interest right now, like double, triple?
None. No. And you know what? I don't know if you talked to your parents about when they first bought their house or I talked to my dad. He's like, oh yeah, same in like 1985, I had to pay 18% of interest for my house. And I was like, Dad, your house costed a nickel. All right. I don't give a shit. Yeah, maybe your housing payment was $400, $500, $600 more than what it was worth. Brother, our houses are 8 times the amount of money that you bought when you came out of school or whatever, decided to buy a house. And now you slap on an 8% interest, which I think is where it's at right now. Get the fuck out of here. Like, it's unbelievable how expensive that is. And we're just talking about houses alone. We're not talking about cars right now. We're not talking about paying the bills of just utilities or groceries. I mean, I went to Hy-Vee and got 5 things for dinner tonight. I'm talking like lettuce, vegetables, and milk and shit like that, like essentials. It's $20.
Bananas are still cheap.
That's good. Just live off potassium.
Yeah, dude.
One of the best fruits for you ever, actually.
No, you're right, man. Like it's hard. It's really hard to make these big purchases that are needed, especially with buying cars. Like people are holding onto their cars now because we have a big crisis where there's not enough used cars in car lots, and you're paying sticker price no matter what. You can't even negotiate. And yeah, your interest rates are going to be super high on your auto loan.
Right.
And
when's the last time you've seen a car appreciate? Never.
I don't think it's ever in the history.
It's never happened. When Deb was getting offers from Cable Dahmer to buy her truck for $40,000, and we bought it for $25,000 in 2018, 2019, and we're getting offers for more than what it's worth. Even today, like it should depreciate, right? Like as soon as you take it off the lot, that's what they always said.
The moment
you're gonna drop $10,000 on that car or whatever.
Yeah,
that to me, and we all know because we're all living in it. It's like something's not right. And now we're gonna bring up the U.S. dollar. That's also it's losing currency. It's not even close to the euro,
which it's depreciating a lot.
Failing to get to the euro price for ages. Anyways, okay, we haven't even made it up to the fourth point.
For hospitals, virtual health assistants will provide more primary care than human doctors. There will also be a new idea called Internet of Bodies that will be introduced to monitor our health. Listen to this chilling quote. Human beings are no longer mysterious spiritual souls. We are now hackable animals. There will be two classes, the exploited and the useless class. It's better to be exploited than to be useless.
Okay. Initial thoughts, because you're more health associated than I am on that one.
I didn't even see that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'll play it back for you.
Care than human doctors. There will also be BRICS nations are coming up fast. For hospitals, virtual health assistants will provide more primary care than human doctors. There will also be a new idea called Internet of Bodies that will be introduced to monitor our health. Listen to this chilling quote. Human beings are no longer mysterious spiritual souls. We are now hackable animals. There will be two classes, the exploited and the useless class. It's better to be exploited than to be useless. 5.
What?
So
I don't believe
that.
I don't believe that.
I think the whole point was like, hey, less healthcare, more regulated towards like like everyone's data is pointing that if you have these underlying conditions or whatever condition, then this is what you need to take. I don't totally agree with that. I don't, and this is about the World Health Organizations or World Health Forum. World Economic Forum.
Right. Yeah, I don't. So what? We're just not going to have hospitals anymore? Is that what they're trying to get at? Like,
that one. I'm like, I don't know.
I think want hospitals.
I think it's hear me out. I think it's a really good thing that we can share all of our. If there's a way to digitize like your bodies, like. You know how a game, right? A game is like comprised of so many files and whatnot, right? It's all collective and you can make it work. If you can do that with a human body, and we're all different, but like you have enough data to support like individual conditions, sicknesses, illnesses, viruses, bacteria, etc., to make a common like cure for that, I think that's a good thing, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
That's what medicine already does.
Right.
We already do that.
Right. And so I think in this quote, they're saying, oh, well, we're going to, the superior are going to remain superior. And the people that are just basically like, what's called like, you're just conditioned that you're always going to be sick. What was it like if you're always sick or you always like have diseases, cancer, like you're fucked. You're screwed.
People with comorbidities,
right? And then you're just gonna die, and you're not. It's like Darwinism.
I mean, they kind of try to do that a little bit with the vaccine, in a way.
Yeah,
when they were trying to say like, oh, if you're not vaccinated, we'll deny you care at our facility. I see like where that could come into play, but I think you'd have too many. I think you'd have too much of a majority from healthcare providers and doctors.
I don't think you're
to say like, no, that's not how this works.
Agreed.
Because when you go to a hospital, like even if, it doesn't matter. You can, if you walk in, if you go in by ambulance, whatever, as soon as you get there and the doctor speaks to you, you can go, yeah, actually, I don't want to be treated. And they go, okay, well, based on my assessment, you could have a condition that could lead up to disability or even death. You understand that, right? And they go, yeah, I don't want to be treated. And you go, cool, sign here. It's called an AMA, against medical advice. And it's your right to sign that and not be treated. So, I mean, that still exists. And to force someone to, back when they were pushing the vaccine very hard, and to force someone to use a vaccine as a prerequisite to getting any kind of treatment is medical malpractice and absolute nonsense.
Would you say the same thing if someone refused the MMR vaccine?
What do you mean?
So like MMR, like you get that from like birth, right? Or the polio vaccine. Is that something that we still get vaccines for, polio?
Yeah. Yeah. I think when you're a baby, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Or like shingles or chickenpox, like stuff like that.
Look, I may not agree with it. Like I may think like that's a really dumb idea. That's a really dumb thing, but it's your health. I'm not going to, I'll advocate for you and your health. But I mean, dude, I have friends who are providers who have been treating a patient at their home and they are literally having a heart attack. And that patient saying, I don't want to go to the hospital. You're like, sir, you are on the brink of death here. Like your heart is literally dying before our eyes. And the more that we talk about this, the more your heart is dying and the closer you are to death. And guess what? That patient, as long as they hold capacity and competency and can make and understand the risks, they're allowed to say no.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. So if someone was like, came into your facility and they were like, yeah, I have measles, but I never got the vaccine. I don't want the vaccine. A doctor would say, okay, guess what? We have protocol for this. That's the thing is like the hospitals know like that people don't take care of themselves and they don't take stuff or take steps towards, preventing stuff like measles, mumps, rubella, or polio, or COVID, or any preventable disease. They know that, and that's why there's protocol. I mean, but it's your health, man. It's your right. That's a positive thing about I know our healthcare system has a lot of issues, but that is a positive thing about our healthcare system. Okay, that's why HIPAA is important. All right, your privacy and your right to healthcare, or your right to getting treated and how you handle your health is important. Not being forced or having prerequisites to getting treatment.
I mean,
I step down.
Do you think in a socialized healthcare, like we see a lot of the EU nations, like you probably don't know this, and I obviously don't. That's why I'm asking the question. But like, do you think if they said you're going to die tomorrow unless we don't give you this drug, that person can say no still?
And are you talking about
just like in EU? For a socialized like healthcare system,
I think they still can say no. I still think that's within their rights. I think with a socialized healthcare system, it's that everyone has healthcare coverage. Right. And that's because you're taxed, like you're heavily taxed on it.
And I think that's where like a lot of maybe like conservative Americans, when it comes to, and I've had these discussions with my friends about socialized healthcare, which I'm in 100% agreement with, is that they're like, oh, well, if they're not working and paying their tax money, why should I provide them healthcare? And I'm like, well, I'm providing hopefully people that are like really old money that they can just live day to day by social security tax, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like the same argument. It's like, well, when I'm old, do I want to be taken care of when I'm not working anymore and I don't have health insurance by the US or by my company? It's like my dad, and I'm sure your dad as well, where they're having to pay thousands of dollars for subpar health insurance that they're paying way more every single month than probably what they're going in and getting treated for.
I mean, the insurance thing is a whole
insurance.
Its own beast. I think socialized. I won't even call it social. I'll call it. It is socialized, but I'll call it universal healthcare, which I know it's been a big thing. I think theoretically there's benefit to it because everyone has coverage, but at the same time, like I don't think people understand that like in our healthcare system now, like people go and get treated and then they will get a bill and they just won't pay the bill.
You don't have to.
Yeah. And then so somebody else has to pick that bill up.
Guess what? The collection agency picks it up.
I know, but
under HIPAA laws, you don't have to disclose.
Right. But my point is that like the issue that I see with universal healthcare is kind of what you brought up earlier to where, look, if you don't want to work, that's fine. That's not even like, I don't even think that's a real issue. Cause I don't think I don't think especially in our economy, like, I don't think there's an insane, we're not like 10% unemployment. You know what I mean?
Right. We're way less than that.
We're way less than that. People work.
We've always fluctuated between like 2 to like 8% being like Great Recession sort of thing.
I think the problem comes into play is where we have a lot of, what is our biggest health problem in our country?
Probably people who smoke and drink.
Starts with an O.
Orgasm.
No. Obesity.
That was a joke, by the way.
Obesity. And we're getting off topic, but like,
it's not off topic because this next point kind of
the meat thing. That's right.
Yeah.
We have an obesity epidemic in our country. And this is a whole other rabbit hole because like,
I would love to do.
I would love to talk about it too because
food. Because I think obviously you mastered in kinesiology, which is not like the study of food. You're not a nutritionist, but you know a lot more about macros, minors, and
there's no minors, but there's macros.
but there's enough to. Let's talk about it next time. Anyways, but you're right. I completely agree with you. There's a lot of health issues in America, a lot, and we're not addressing them. And these corporations are, and I say corporations because we're not making matters better for everyone. If you look at the EU standards for just like what is involved in their food versus what's involved in ours is insane. And the links to cancer is also involved into that using all these ingredients.
Yeah, and again, we'll get into that because a lot of that stuff is really misunderstood. And
I'd like to learn because
there's no context provided to it. But anyways, let's get to the meat thing. Who this guy's talking about?
All right. Let's see about the meat.
We will eat much less meat. 6. Today's refugees will be 2030's CEOs. Refugees will become major source of entrepreneurial talent. 7. The Western value.
Shit. 5.
Why was 5 so short?
Come on.
Better to be exploited than to be useless. 5. We will eat much less meat. 6.
All right.
Dude, everything else gets its own little like section, and then he goes, 5. We'll eat less meat. All right, 6. Yeah. Like what?
I didn't learn anything.
First off, in what context will we eat less meat? Like, are you saying there's going to be less meat available? Or are you going to say they're going to stop recommending people eating meat? Or are they going to put restrictions on how much meat people can buy? Is there going to be restrictions on how much meat's going to even be like available in like supermarkets? Like,
we don't know.
What's the context there? You can't just say we're going to eat less meat. All right, number 6, refugees.
Yeah, apparently the quote is, if I can just pause it real quick, is that we're going to be eating bugs instead of eating bugs instead
that's
of
where it's going.
Meat.
That's where it's going. The bugs. Okay.
Which
I'm not fucking eating bugs, bro.
I'm not eating bugs either. I mean, I'm just not eating it. Just end of the day, man. I'm good.
Just I'll fucking starve, dude. Whatever.
No, I'm good. I don't know what to say about the whole food thing because we have enough food to give everyone on this planet enough dietary, nutrition value to there should be no world hunger at all.
Agreed.
America alone, like the fact that people are like starving or kids aren't eating for school or whatever blows my mind because I can go.
Dude, that reminds me of like the one like bipartisan thing that we had going during COVID was the child tax credit. And
that never get passed?
No, it did. It did get passed, and it was working. And like, I think we had like, I don't have the numbers but I remember like the child poverty rate. What? Child poverty rate.
Whoa. You want to?
Whoa, dude. Whoa, dude.
Canceled. Hashtag.
Everyone relax for a second. What was that?
You said it. Bro.
No, dude. I said child poverty
I'm gonna
rate.
put him on blast. Oh shit! I can't make that just Ryan. Damn it.
The child poverty, you can.
It's okay. I don't want to.
Okay. The child poverty rate dropped like significantly. And then both sides just let it go to expire. And it was like,
why?
I don't know. I don't know why, but I remember this back in like during the COVIDs.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. And it's like doing stuff like that, like when both sides can go, hey, this bill, we don't have any bullshit from either side in it. This is something that benefits something that we both want, to happen.
Yeah.
And they did it. And it was like, holy shit. We put our heads together and something worked.
Whoa.
And now we're letting it go to expire because it's probably because both sides were like, all right, if we're renewing this bill, I want this in there. And then I want this in there. And it was like, okay, well, we don't agree on those things. So we're going to let it expire. I think it's kind of what happened.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
So let's go on to the refugees here.
Much less meat. 6. Today's refugees will be 2030's CEOs. Refugees will become a major source of entrepreneurial talent. 7. The West.
Why is that a bad thing? That people from
I just don't understand what that means, though.
People from insufferable countries says the majority of the world's will be educated. They also say that refugees will become a major source of entrepreneurial talent. That's a good thing, right? It's driving capitalism, driving people to create new ideas to hopefully make the world a better place, to compete with other items. And yeah, I don't either, but I think that's a good thing. I'm not going to be competitive at all towards this. I think this is great.
That one didn't make sense.
Yeah, and what's it against Syria? I mean, I've never. Here's the thing about making these generalizations too about refugees, right? People are always like, I don't want these people because they're from this country, and it's like, well, what's wrong with the country? Well, they're communists, and they're going to bring those ideologies over here, and I'm like, you really think if?
Well, no, I think they're running from. Sorry,
they're running from bad things, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right, and I know what you're about to say, but like, take a typical Mexican refugee, right? You really think they're going to come to America and be like, I'm going to make a new entrepreneurial idea that's going to fuck Americans? No, like, no, not at all. They're like, I recognize a problem. I want to try to make it better. Here's a solution. It's very untypical, not typical. Atypical. Thank you. That you're creating a solution or creating a problem for a solution. Solution for a problem. Problem for a solution. I said.
I think you got it right. Yeah.
First time. That's hardly the matter. So I don't agree with that being like a scary thing.
Yeah. I think, with refugees, I don't think people are against refugees. I think people are.
No, have you seen when that happened and people were like so against refugees coming to America?
No, I think people were against open borders. I think people were like,
true.
Okay, well, refugees. Yeah, that's fine. People come over here all the time, but like, let's not let, like the cartel walk across the border with all their fentanyl laced drugs that are killing our youth
right. It's like Hamla Carrots thing. Don't come. Don't come.
I'm going to come.
No. Yeah. I'm totally cool with like every immigrant coming to America. Don't do it illegally. Because
why is this such a hard concept?
So people have gotten across the border that are good people. I don't think there's good or bad people that cross the border, because I think they're like trying to get them away from a horrible situation or trying to go make their situation better. Right. I think that's 100% fair. And I get it. There's a good way to do it and there's a bad way to do it. That's all I'm going to say about like immigration and whatnot. Well, I'm going to keep going, actually. There are so many people that when I was in recruiting that were good people. They weren't American citizens. They're on green cards and they had to keep like teaching or like being in the education system so they can keep their visa or whatnot. But they had to wait until they could, apply for American citizenship, which is 7 years minimum living here, which is a long time to live in the country.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. And then it could be longer. It could be another 10 years after that before you're allowed to go and take the American citizenship. So there's a lot of problems when it comes to immigration in America, and it's very unfortunate. And I don't know what to tell those people, because I think a lot of people that are wanting to go to a country like America or Canada or UK that are traveling from Middle Eastern or South American countries, I was just trying to make their lives better, right? And their families better.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm on board. I agree with you with the premise.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know what my point is here.
I think your point is that having refugees come to your country isn't because they're bad people or bringing bad ideologies over. Like you said, they're escaping.
People are scared of.
They're escaping tyranny,
right?
And they're trying to come to freedom. But I mean, you have to go through the proper channels.
Right.
To get into our country, because again, we've seen time and time again, bad people will take advantage of good people.
Yeah.
And bad people will take advantage of bad systems to get what they want. And we've seen that happen in our country. So I think I think that's what our next president needs to focus on, is to actually fix the border.
Yeah.
Border problem. The immigration problem.
It's such a gray area, because
it is a gray area.
It is. You want to do right what's for people as like a humanitarian, look at it.
Yeah.
You don't want it. Sorry, I'm burping. You don't want people. You don't want people to suffer. You don't want anyone to be in cages or whatever. But don't take it as a political gain either. If you're going down there, and I'm not to throw out AOC, but she did that. It was just political gain. I think every president, every political member that wants to get elected is showing some form of either empathy or concern, but they never address it. We never see someone that's just like, hey, this is wrong. Let's let people like come on in. Like it's going to be all right. But you're just going to have to go through the same process as like most people that do it legally, especially if you're coming not from Mexico. No one's coming from Canada to the United States. Let's be honest there. But you have a third world countries coming from South American and Central America coming up to our lands to seek prosperity. The difference is the people that are coming from, Eastern Europe or like anywhere from the country that have to travel by plane, they have to go through all of that process. What's the difference between just Mexico? Like, can we not solve that issue? Like most countries that are in Europe, and I don't know this for a fact, but I know a lot, have a fence of some sort. I'm just going to leave that there. Most countries have that. A fence.
Oh,
or
I thought you said offense, like offense.
A like physical.
A physical fence.
A physical fence or a building or something. Or,
well, of course.
I'm pretty sure that U.S. Canada does not have that, but I know that the Monties will catch your ass if you try to go to Canada, fleeing, or if they find you, you're going to be shipped back to the United States promptly. Let's move on to.
Sorry, you got to go back to America, bud.
CEOs. Refugees will become a major source of entrepreneurial talent. 7, the Western values.
All right.
Will be at breaking point. WEF wants democracy to be reimagined as the values that have underpinned the liberal world order will have been tested to the breaking point. 8, we are going to Mars. Here are 8 chilling predictions for 20 values that have underpinned.
Yeah, hold on. 8's fine, but
let's go to Mars.
Yeah, who cares? So 7, the values that built the West have been tested to the breaking point. It's not that the WEF wants democracy to fail. It's just that they want to be reimagined, they say in 2030.
Great reset.
The values have underpinned the liberal world order will have been tested to the breaking point. What are these values? Individualism, freedom of speech, laissez-faire, capitalism, Judeo-Christianity. The WEF doesn't say, but they'll be really happy to tell us once they've taken it over. Kind of the old fallacy that says, oh, well, if they do this, then XYZ is going to happen. Like, okay, we don't know. I think democracy still, if you leave it up to the people, it's going to go in the right direction. And I'm not talking about the people that we have in the United States, because let's be honest, we're brainwashed. The shit that we see every single day on either TV or social media, especially if you're looking at Facebook, YouTube, sorry, YouTube, but you're involved, and TikTok, all these platforms. But I feel like TikTok has been the most unrestrictive app about ideas and ideologies that I can see other parts of the world what am I trying to say? I in TikTok, I see ideologies that are, bless you.
Thank you. You see more unfiltered. It's more unfiltered.
Thank you. That's all I was trying to say. Whereas I think the stuff that I know the stuff we see in America is so filtered.
It is filtered, but here's something that's really kind of positive.
Okay.
CNN's numbers, and this is I'm just taking an example of a mainstream news network. Their numbers have been like crazy low.
Yeah.
Like they did one of these little demo things and they only had 80,000 viewers for this demo.
That's really.
And like, yeah. And you look at their peak prime time and like, they're not even they're not even close to 1 million viewers. And you put that on the grand scale of the population of the United States.
That's good.
And you compare that to Fox, and like Fox has super low numbers too. And so, I mean, kind of what you're seeing is a shift in how people are consuming their news. Like people are starting to not get their information from major news networks. Instead, they're getting it from online publications, like we've been talking about, independent news outlets, and social media. So I think that's a positive.
It's extreme positive. We want more of that. We want people to try to gain their news from wherever they can, other than those just the two major networks that are owned by two companies.
Yeah. And on the flip side, as you know, like most mainstream media is backed by
Vanguard.
Liberal. I mean, like I'm talking ideology.
Oh, ideologies. Yeah.
You have more liberal ideology on the mainstream news network, and the party in power will try to steer facts and information through the mainstream media.
I think that's
so that they can say that is like, well, we have trusted sources that are saying this. When in reality, it's like trusted source, or is it more where you're ultra filtering the news so that we only hear what you want us to hear?
Yeah. Did Matt Taibbi ever go on CNN or Fox News? I know he went on Fox News. Did you ever go on CNN? Mr. Don Lemon or something?
I have to look into that. But like we were talking about earlier, a little bit about Michael Schellenberger, him being on Joe Rogan, and he talks extensively about how he's been like him, Taibbi, and Barry Weiss have all been under attack. And like he even expresses that he's very much a liberal. My dogs are going crazy right now.
I know, I can hear him. Tell him to shut up.
It's Bandit.
Fucking Bandit.
Yeah.
Just take a shit on the porch again.
Don't. But yeah, he talks about how he's liberal, and how when he was kind of gathering the information from the Twitter files, he was invited on by Barry Weiss, and Barry Weiss is conservative. Matt Taibbi is probably more liberal, and they went in and they got all this information on Twitter files. They did all this reading, all this fact finding, just to present the truth, and how you have one side of the aisle that was attacking them and trying to discredit them, calling, if you remember AOC calling the Hunter Biden story a half fake story.
Yes.
And it's like, that's even a weird premise to say half fake. But
half fake. Like, what's true about that?
Yeah. But when we came, what we came to find out was everything in the New York Post story was all true. All the evidence they found, the fact that the FBI subpoenaed for Hunter Biden's laptop. They had the laptop. They had all that information. This is all true. This is not half true, no half truth, no half falsehoods or whatever.
You have to create a narrative if you're someone like in her shoes too. Unfortunately.
Do you?
No, you don't. You can be just a stand-up politician.
You could, but she's not.
That actually respects the facts of everything.
Yeah, but
we can't.
We can't.
So, anything else about WEF?
I do have a video for you. Okay. I have a video of James Lindsay. If you don't know James Lindsay, I would highly suggest giving him a follow on the Twitters, finding some of his work on YouTube. He has like his own little publication gosh dang it, what is it called? I'll need to look it up. He talks a lot about WEF, and he is kind of independent like you. He's not conservative, not liberal.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. See if I can look up what his thing is called. New Discourses. That's his Substack. New Discourses. This video is posted by
pass you.
Okay, make sure the volume's on. Share.
I'm gonna piss.
Okay.
It's all good.
You ready?
You will own nothing, comma, and you will be happy. The Great Reset is the comma in that sentence. Everything. They've done interviews with corporate leaders that go on to say, beyond you'll own nothing and be happy, they explain how. They say, well, the thing is, you don't actually want the product, is what we've realized. You just want the benefit of the product. So maybe we'll keep the ownership of the product and we'll just sell you the benefit of the product. So you don't actually have to own anything. Everything's on a subscription service. And they can take it away or turn it off whenever they want. And you think, well, you're Netflix, okay. But now think it's your car. We're actually seeing things like that. They were turning off trucks in Canada remotely. Your means of getting around, they will turn it off. Your food subscription, because it will be a subscription, they can turn it off. If your social credit's not high enough. This is the world that these guys envision, and the reason they envision it is because they want to create one that is both perfectly predictable as a market and perfectly controllable as a political object. There's a term for this in some of the literature that's called a psychocracy. A government by psych, you're pretending that you're happy in the metaverse or something while you own nothing. They say, everything you have, you will rent, and it'll be delivered by drone. Does that include your underwear? Because I draw the line. I don't know about all y'all in the room. I know it's hard to identify these days, but I am a man, and therefore I will buy my underwear and I will wear them until they fall apart. It's how we do things in America. I'm just saying. Everything you own, they say, you will rent, or everything you have, you will rent. Does that include your underwear? These are actually, it's a funny question, but it's a serious question. You have to ask, what in the world are they including in everything? They've done interviews with corporate leaders that go on to say, beyond you'll own nothing and be happy, they explain how.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
How do I stop sharing? There.
Yeah. There we go. Don't hear my voice. He's not wrong about like everything being rented. I mean, I just canceled YouTube TV because they upped the price to like.
I swear, dude, this is like the second. I think you mentioned this last episode.
No, I don't think I did.
I think you did because I remember you talking about it.
No, man, they raised the price by like $8, and I'm like, it's as expensive as cable was 10 years ago, and I'm not going to do it. And the only reason I get YouTube TV is so I can watch Red Zone for football. Yeah, sports. And that's it. And it's crazy. And I'm just like looking at my bills and I'm like, holy shit, look at all these subscription services. And I said this to everyone I talked to back when I think Netflix first came out. I was like, don't worry, this is going to get more expensive than what cable is now. This is like when everyone had cable. My dad was paying, $120 for DirecTV. I'm like, you're going to have a subscription service for Netflix, ESPN, ABC, and you see it now. You get Paramount Plex, HBO, Stars, like everything. Everything's $10-15 a month, and you're now paying more than what you would have paid back when you had these for free, other than the fact that you don't have to watch commercials. Mm-hmm. So thanks. Because I fucking hate commercials, but we're paying more now than what we did 10-15 years ago.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's funny how that happened.
So I wouldn't doubt that, and the guy's point that everything's going to be rented. Yeah, I mean, he's not exactly wrong, because even like when it comes to gaming, I think it was brought up way earlier in this podcast that, yeah, I'm paying for services where I can rent games. Xbox Game Pass, a great example. PSNet, I think, has a subscription service for all PS games where you can just go and play them anytime you want, which is great for a game that you want to go and play maybe 10, 15 hours and then you're done with it.
Yeah, it's a scary premise to think
it's
you want your groceries this month? Okay, well, if you want groceries every month, you pay this X amount.
I think
your social credit score has dropped. We're gonna have to cut your.
Well, I mean, hasn't it already evolved for your monetary credit score? Like, you can't buy a house unless you want this much interest and this much down payment. Then we can trust you. It's like when Deb's good friends was like saying. She went to go apply for a mortgage, and she has a great credit, and she couldn't do anything. She couldn't buy a house because she had no credit cards, nothing like that. And she's like, why would you accept me as a lender? She's like, because you have no credit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, isn't this the person that you want to rent from, someone that can pay off everything? It's no, we don't want that person. The banks want people that are around the 600 to 700 credit scores, because they're always going to have a high interest. They're always going to have to pay for the rest of their life, basically. And they're always going to own that person. And that's it. That's all it is. Why was a credit score ever invented?
I think because of what happened, the Great Depression.
Credit scores were developed in the 80s, 90s. This way before housing crisis. This was a after-term concept, and it was.
I think it was because like with
I'll just ask Google real quick.
Well, I was gonna say, I think it's kind of like with school loans. Like, why has education become so pricey? And that's because anybody can get a school loan. And it's just, loans are so accessible now because you're attached to that school loan for the rest of your life. Well, they will garnish your wages. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like a car. It's not like a car where if you miss payments, they're like, all right, we're going to repo your car, or we're going to repossess your house. Like, nope, we're going to garnish your wages. Guess what? We're taking your paycheck now.
Fair. And I don't think where the credit score, it's not a bad idea. Like, if I'm a banker and I say, hey, I have $1 million and I have 10 people coming to me and they all want $100,000, right? I'm going to charge them 10% interest for each of these loans, and I'm going to make another extra $100,000, right? Or $1 million. Good concept, right? Great. But now it's been portrayed like it's been turned and manipulated like we do with all of our laws, all of these business decisions, to make it so complex that the average American can't understand what they're actually doing with their money. And so here I just asked, why was credit score invented into Google? Businesses used to determine who they could trust to extend credit to the sentence wasn't complete. As the U.S. urbanized lending became difficult, when a borrower moved to a new town and needed credit from a bank, there wasn't a standard way to verify if someone wasn't able to repay their debts, which makes completely sense. How are you able to give someone a credit score who always pays off their loans, and shouldn't they always be the standard of 850? Isn't that someone that you just said, here's whatever money you need, whatever money you need, I know you're good for it? Why are they denying people that have perfect credit scores or that have no debt? And why is it when I have now 4 credit cards, everything's paid off, everything's good, I still have a 700 credit score because of what my dad did R.I.P.
Oh yeah, and were you telling me that story?
R.I.P. He's still alive. But something that happened 8 years ago that's still affecting my credit score because he didn't pay the credit card bill for 6 months. How's that still like going against me? I've owned a house for almost 5 years now. We pay all our bills on time. I've never missed a car payment, whatnot. My credit score is still dog shit.
Well, I think one of the crazy things is like the act of applying for a loan damages your credit score.
Why? I want to see what my credit is.
I don't know.
I want to see how much money I get. Why is it? So what if I apply to 40 credit cards? I want to see the best rates. Why is that going to be a hit on my credit? Because I want to go in debt? Isn't that what you want in the first place?
No, I don't want debt.
No, you don't as a big banker. But why is it that that's the case at all?
I think because they see it, like you just mentioned, they see a dollar sign.
It blows my mind.
Yeah. Holy shit, man. We covered a lot of stuff in this hour and 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, I can go on.
I know.
I
know, but the World Economic Forum, it's going to be interesting what happens in the next few years in Davos. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the near future with the US dollar and BRICS. And we have an election coming up. We haven't even mentioned the Donald Trump arraignment, which is going to be fireworks and the implications that holds. So we have a lot of stuff in the near future.
Aren't we going to have an election this year? We should have
2024.
We're going to see primaries.
We're going to see primaries. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what comes from our only two political parties.
Yeah.
Sorry, there is three, but we never see any.
There's more than three. You have the Green Party, the Libertarian Party.
Right. Well, let's see it on a
independent.
Yeah. All right. Well,
it's been fun. It was fun talking.
It's exhausting.
Always good talking to you, brother.
No, it's fantastic talking to you. It's just the more and more I talk about these situations with you, not that I'm frustrated at the end of every podcast, but
it's okay to be frustrated because it's frustrating stuff.
I am worried about all of us, but you're right. Let's end it. It's been great.
It's been phenomenal.
Hey guys, if you made it this far, I love you.
As always. This is from Sam. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 17. 18?
Yes, sir.
We'll check that. That's crazy. We're approaching 20.
You'll see us on TikTok soon.
We'll see us on TikTok. All right. Well, this is episode 18, apparently. We'll see you in the very near future for episode 19.
Later.
See you later.
Congratulations. You've made it to the end. You might as well tune in for the next episode of Indecent Exposure. That's all, folks. Until next time, Space Cowboy.